is that different government departments can sit together and talk about what should be the initiative and policies that can be shared and publicized for the territory. That would be very good. We have some friends from the housing department. They do have a lot of good ideas that can be applied not only in public housing buildings but also in other sectors. So I think for this kind of government set up that can help to spread the news. Thank you.
Raymond?
Yeah, Raymond Yao from MARAP. I'm the project engineer of the Zero Carbon Building. I got two questions, both directed firstly to Secretary Wong, knowing that he might not be able to stay behind for the rest of the day. Here they are. Has the government have any plan to introduce the territory-wide zero carbon building legislation, considering the emergence of such directives or legislation in Germany, listening to Dr. Rosenberg earlier, or the UK? Also, the unique opportunity was certainly falling under your portfolio of the power supply contract review with the utility companies that's taken place. If not, what step the government will be doing towards this aim? That's the first question. Second is the Singapore government has also just passed an act or bill less than a month ago, which is September this year, that from the second half of next year, 2013, building owners in Singapore will have requirement to ensure existing buildings operate efficiently. Basically, in other words, it says this mandate the energy performance of existing building on 3 areas. The minimum green mark standard. Second is the energy audit on all the cooling system. And thirdly is a compulsory annual mandatory submission of energy consumption data. So since existing revitalization of existing buildings certainly is your portfolio, have you considered such a plan to be in place in Hong Kong in the near future? Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Raymond, my friend. Okay. Thank you for the questions. Okay. Probably I'm not going to give you any direct answers, but we do have a kind of new thinking about how to engage the stakeholders by the new term of government. On the key issues that we are having a kind of engagement workshop, okay, one by one, with the key stakeholders on a kind of thematic approach. The first one we held last month was on air quality, with all the scholars, all the concerned groups, green groups, together talk about how to address the air quality issue in a kind of holistic and strategic way. I think the meeting was pretty successful. And the next one, end of this month, will be on energy. That's the question raised by Raymond. Not only about the demand side management, about zero carbon building, but also about how to address the supply side, the power companies' issues. So I would send an invitation to Raymond, and we can talk about it. I mean, it's instead of anyone to make up a mind, but it's really through this process of engagement, then we can, I think, get better policies for Hong Kong in the long run. I think that's my approach. On the existing building, you mentioned Singapore. Singapore is an interesting country that they are moving pretty quickly in terms of green buildings in these recent years. And almost each year, when I visit there, they are surprised on news. And Raymond just came back from Singapore that I did not know. Okay, so Raymond promised that he would give me a briefing privately. So we can learn and analyze what Singapore is doing. I think in terms of the Singapore experience, it's very good that the government is very supportive to all this, and they are really committed. At the same time, the community as a whole, including the business sectors, are somehow I don't know how they can be so cooperative in a way that they can work together on that, so they can get the results in a quicker way. So anyway, that Raymond, that's a good idea to talk about.
Okay, so we're just running out of time for this session now. So I know there are a bunch of questions. What I'll ask is for everybody to keep their questions short and ask them all together, and then to go down the panel and pick the answers that you'd like to give. So we have the purple. Sorry.
Edward Lee from the retired government service. I'm also working in the housing department on management of buildings. So I have some questions on Mr. Wong on the energy buildings, energy saving of the buildings. For example, you have told us that the most of the electricity consumption is rests on the air conditioning. That means most of the people are spending much of the energy in using the air conditioners. The problem is that particularly for a high emission zone area like Hong Kong, that means if we are living in Yau Ma Tei district, we are under very healthy pollution, such as noise pollution is nearly 90 to 100 dB. And the air quality is very worse because we are living in the roadside with over more than 10 flyover and roads. And under this condition, how could we, not use the air conditioners? And we cannot we have to close all the windows at night and turn on the air conditioner without stop because the air is affecting our sleep. And we cannot sleep because the noise is too loud. The problem is that we have to look not just from the building perspective, but from the town planning perspective. Then we have to control the transport, not just
Sorry,
on...
I'm just going to... You're right. That's a sustainability issue that I think we're going to address. And I just want to get to the other questions because we are running short on time. But no, absolutely. The urban planning, and we talked about this a little bit this morning, as a broader issue beyond just buildings, including livability is something that we're all very interested in.
I just want to... one thing more is that how can you, as the Secretary of Environment, help us to live in a environmental friendly way with so much highly emitted transport facilities? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, another question here, please.
Yeah, my name is Gregory Choi from the Asian Institute of Built Environment. I have a question or a comment for Mr. Wong. You have mentioned that we had very high roadside pollution. And the thing is, we have 3 Cross Harbour Tunnel, but the central one is very congested. So what government would be doing, or would they be considering distributing the traffic through the 3 Cross Harbour Tunnel, maybe by buying the tunnel which is maybe too costly, or maybe subsidizing the car drivers? Can you tell us more about this?
Okay, so another So another question about urban sustainability and livability. Josie Close. With the hands, one more hand.
School of Energy Environment, City University of Hong Kong. My question is about energy supply. I really would like to know more about Energiewende from Germany and how we might apply it here. I understand that the Energiewende is about the transformation of the energy supply, really about on-site generation, and particularly local cooperatives. So it's really about integration of renewable energy feed-in tariff. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there are 3 more questions I've got here. Sorry, Ewan. Sorry, can you bring that microphone here, please?
Hi, I have a question for KS. My name is Doug Beggs with China Daily. Does the government have any additional zero-carbon buildings in the works or maybe planned for the future? And if so, could you give a little bit of details on this? If not, then why not?
Okay, and then so we have 1, 2, and then 3, and that's it. And then you can talk amongst yourselves later. So Over here. Sorry, where's the microphone? Who has a microphone? Okay, microphones, go.
Sorry, Catherine Tuzard. I do educational audits. 3 questions that actually convey to what Secretary Wong mentioned for the energy panel maybe next month. One question is, we know that the electricity utilities do overproduce and basically export. So is it something that is affordable, I would say, and an air pollution perspective for the future? Another question is about the waste to energy projects. How is this energy going to be marketed? Are people going to be able to buy cleaner energy? The third question would be on the price policy of electricity. Is this tool going to be used alongside maybe more competitive incentives? Thank you.
Okay, here, and then you, and then that's all the questions we'll have time for. And then our panel can wrap up, and we can have some tea. All right, go.
One short question about how to achieve effective synergy across departments, bureaus, or ministries in Germany and Hong Kong. Because in Hong Kong, I know that there was an interdepartmental working group on climate change being set up in the last administration, and I'm not sure whether in the new term of administration this group can be enhanced, and whether there can be a new group to institutionalize on sustainable building to achieve effective horizontal governance within the administration, and what are the formal and informal networks can be built within the government.
Okay, last question.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm an architect. Actually, looking back a bit, let's take a step back. I think that we are facing a very big challenge here because we are now in a position where we have to fix things. I think that what I agree with KS is that we need a vision for the future, and we must have a radical change. And I want to ask, the vision from Germany or Hong Kong, whether there's a vision for our future, whether we can, in our design, we're talking about architecture and energy here. So how architecture can make things right before we go into details, like how to save energy, how to switch off the lights, how to use less air conditioner. We have to get the things first, that is the architecture right, before we can move on.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right, so Rudiger, would you like to start with addressing any of the questions that you...
I think I could make it a little bit short because it's quite understandable that the audience took the chance to ask the Secretary. But
and you're also
many,
here
many
all day
few comments.
well.
If you are talking, you do not have to think that we are in paradise in Germany. Of course, we have also big challenges. We have big problems within the building sector. Let's say, for example, our building stock, of course. I mentioned that we have many old buildings, and of course it's also a very big challenge to refurbish them, and it's not made within months, it's a question of years. You remember one slide, we have aims now for 2050. So I think you always have to bear this in mind. It's not a question of what are you doing now and please results tomorrow. So it's not possible. We are just making a roadmap plan for existing stock buildings to raise the rate of refurbishment up to 2.5% a year. So you can calculate how long it will last at least to bring progress here. But it's very important to have clear aims, of course, and this is a task of politics, of course, and to go step by step in all this field we mentioned so many times: education, information, transparency, new techniques, and so on. And the other thing is of good architecture. I think this is a debate we had in Germany, let's say 15 years ago, and I brought with me 2 professors of architects. We will hear them later on. And for Mr. Fisch and Mr. Lütgemeyer, it's of no question to think in these categories of using efficient electrical equipment and knowing what are the problems of a certain facade and so on. But this is not familiar to all the architects still in Germany. So of course also you have to work on this, and I think this is achievable in a short time, also with university. So, of course, the lady mentioned the Energiewende, the Energiewende, our closing of nuclear plants since 2022, and I can tell you in the ministry we are not afraid of this challenge, but we know that this will be a very big challenge. And we took many different instruments now, from wind power supply and water from the soil and PVs, and we are cannot be sure how it's working after years, but we have to look every month, every year, and see to have certain progress. And this is the only way. Thank you.
Okay, so many questions. Okay.
I know we've already kept you late, so feel free to keep it short.
For Edward, thank you for your question. I think the simple answer is we did a kind of really integrated approach to address those air quality, energy, livability in a kind of holistic way. For all the areas, it's challenging. Okay, but for new areas, I think we are going to have kind of inter-bureau and departmental approach to help minimize the problem. About the roadside and free tunnels, it's outside my jurisdiction. But I think the point is that, as mentioned earlier, it's my own aspiration, and also we initiated some internal discussion is really how to think critically the commuting strategy for the Hong Kong Island side, given the forthcoming infrastructures. So the tunnels could be put within this review, but that would take years to have kind of holistic approach. China Daily, right? About Silk building, I don't think we are having any plan to have another one, because the first one was just done, and I think they would totally would kind of monitoring in the coming year, so that we can learn from that experience. I'm not saying that Silk building is not important, but I think Hong Kong's having a high density context that probably we have to address the energy issue in a more holistic way, is that how we can turn the existing stock of buildings into a kind of lower carbon approach is really the most critical challenge. About the what else? About the about the waste to energy. That we would work with the power company so that the energy would be fit into the grid and then treated in a normal way. Okay. About the interdepartmental on climate change, that I think we would review those aspects. But I think the point is that we would like to emphasize the importance about the synergy between departments, so that we can move things from climate change to green building in a more effective way. And Stephen, I think your question is very important, is how to articulate the vision and how architects and builders and engineers can contribute. I think, as mentioned in our slide, that we need an integrated approach. Energy, air quality, solid waste, behavioral change, public education have to be considered in an integrated and efficient way. I think architects and builders and most of the people here can really contribute. We all want a kind of a high-quality, livable city in Hong Kong, but really reducing our eco-footprint. We have to understand the challenge that in terms of eco-footprint, we are having about 6 eco-hectares per person in Hong Kong, but in order to be really sustainable, about 2 to 3 hectares should be the target. So somehow we have to reduce our consumption almost by 50%, okay, but in a smart way, so that it won't compromise our quality of living. That's challenging, but I think we can learn from our German friend, and together we can work towards that goal. Thank you.